Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. And it's time for another channeling from Raphael. Only this one is a little bit different because what he will cover is something I asked him to do, and he has agreed. And it stems to a channeling I watched Saturday from Mother Mary. And she said, send out bouquets of hope. And I thought of one, and I asked Raphael about it, and he said yes. But this morning, as he was unveiling more of what he was going to cover, and I don't know everything he will say, there's just so much that comes under this topic. And he told me the way he was going to start it. And I was a little hesitant about that. But he stated his reasons as to why it should be that way. And I won't say I agreed. I will say I accepted. He feels that's the way it should be, so who am I to tell him what to do? And that's part of what he's going to cover too. So, okay. He's ready. Greetings, dear ones. James is a little funny, and he's hesitant about the way I intend to begin this channel. What he has asked for is his idea of a bouquet of hope, which is a glimpse into what is going on, what will occur, and where we will end up. So having that in hand, we can hold on to that while we muddle through all this mess that we're going through. And I agreed with him. But the part he is leery of is that I intend to give you a history of James. Not just this human James, this body you see in front of you, but Spirit James, and all he has done and been through, and why those of us on the other side chose him to work with in this time frame. And it goes back across the galaxies to many planets where a call has gone out that a planet is in trouble and needs help. And James has always stepped up. And of course, his family around him, his spiritual family, and his friends, some of whom are close in this lifetime, have been there with him and are with him here now. And he has always been a warrior, a fighter, standing up and engaging in the wars and battles and things that had to be fought. And all that time, he was in pain. Because basically, James is a gentle soul. He has a heart you would not believe. He is so much love. And being that warrior hurt him and hurt his heart. But he accepted that and carried on. And over time, in a way, he has shut off his heart because he couldn't handle that pain. He went on with the fight wherever he was and continued, but those battles have scarred him. And he doesn't like to think of that, but it has. And he has tried to protect himself from the pain of love. But you can't. It's just, you cannot do that. Love will come to you as it deems fit. And in this lifetime, it took him a while. He had to go through a long period of life before he could begin to awaken. And it was in the time after his first wife died. He went through the dark night of the soul, and he cried many, many, many tears. And finally realized it was time to get out of that. And then I came to the forefront with Mother Mary as he started to do this. And I have been with him since that time. Out there in front where he could see me, know I was there, and over time accept that he is worthy of those who are around him to help him. And consciously, he has not been aware of a lot of the things we have done to help him. He knows we were there, but he did not understand what he was going through and how we helped him get through that. And he's at the point now where it took his recent divorce, which was very, very painful for James. He had to make a hard decision, and it tore him up. But it put him in a place where he started to do something he had never done in this lifetime. He looked at himself and wondered, who am I? Who am I truly? And it's been a journey of a little over 2 years now. And he has gone through many changes. He first started looking at all the labels he carried. Manager, woodworker, friend, boss, all the different labels that other people in society, and to some degree himself, had put on him. And as he looked at these, he realized that's all they were. They were labels. There were things he did. They were not who he was. He narrowed this down to somewhere 6, 7, 8 things that he thought were who he was. And as he started looking at these, he realized again, they were just labels. They were truly a part of what he did, but they were not who he was. And he finally settled on 2. One was he was a spirit having a human experience. And 2, he was a servant of the light. And if you think that did not rock him to the foundations of who he was, you don't know James. He has never been one to bow to anybody. Even when El Moria came into his awareness, he would not accept Master and Sheila. He finally agreed that mentor and student were okay, They're the same thing. What difference does words make? But to him, they mattered. And to accept that he was a servant to anything totally rocked his world. And since then, there have been things time after time that, well, okay, he thinks he's settled, he's worked everything out, and then something comes up and everything changes again. And he's finally starting to realize that there is no solidarity, no one way for anything. The only constant is change. Now, one of the big reasons and when I say we, I speak of the others around me on the other side, and if I started naming names, you would recognize them, have always been aware and appreciative of his art. He tries to hide it. He doesn't let it out much. Every once in a while you may get a glimpse of it. But he is such a gentle, loving being. And that's why he is here now. Not to fight as a warrior, but to stand as a beacon for others. Kind of like an usher saying, this way, this way. To be a beacon of light and love for those who can see and accept it and move into that for themselves. So that's the premise of who he is and why we continue to work with him. He's finally letting more of that out. And I have to make him smile because he's really not comfortable with that. He still has to learn, and he is learning. But now that we have that out of the way, we can get to what James asked for. He resonated with Mary's quote of send a bouquet of love. And he had a thought that we're in this time and all the buzzwords of ascension, unity consciousness, oneness, all this, all that, blah, 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 blah. They're all out there. But what do they mean? What is it going to do to our planet? How is that unity awareness going to change things? Where are we as a people going to go with that? So that is my topic for today. And I will give you a couple of examples from a future lifetime that James has connected, about 100 years or more in the future. And there were two different aspects of that. One, he was standing in a treehouse looking at a city off in the distance with these towering skyscrapers that make anything constructed today look like Tinker Toys. But the real miracle is the treehouse he is standing in. And it's not what you think of as a treehouse. It is not a building that people put into the trees. This came about when people were really beginning to be conscious of their planet. And a group of people decided to leave the city and go out into nature. and they wanted to live among the trees and the planets and whatever. And as they came to the end of their first day's journey, they saw a grove on the side of the road, and they pulled over and thought it would be a nice place to spend the night. Little did they know. They went to sleep, ready to get up in the morning, and they woke up totally confounded. During the night, the trees had grown over them. The branches had reached out, merged together, and built a shelter for them. And they were in awe of this. And they realized this is what they were seeking. They could commune with the trees. They could make a home. They did not have to chop down trees, stick buildings in them to satisfy human needs. They could work with the trees and make a home. And that was the beginning of that part of society. So those who did not want to be in the cities lived out in nature and in something that had never been done before. There were stories in fiction about elves living in the trees like this and other things and other fictional stories. But nothing had been in reality, and now it is. The other side of that is looking at that city in the distance. And those spires are so high and magnificent because they are a counter-gravity civilization. They have learned to control and use gravity. Now, this is a necessity for space travel. Not in the short distances like you started where you were using flame-driven rockets of one kind or another. But to cover any distances, you had to have thought and control of gravity. And that's what space travel is. And in that lifetime, James was a test pilot. And that connotation carries all kinds of things. But he was a test pilot for wormholes. He had his little ship, and it kind of looked like an armadillo on its standing on its head or whatever, however you want to look at it, but it had those rings in his plane. And when a new wormhole was found, he would be the first one to go through. And he would journey through the wormhole, come out on the other end, explore around a bit to see what was there, and come back and report. And the way he reported is an indication of what society will be. He comes back not with a recorder or any of those things to show where he had been, what he had experienced. He just came with him. He went into this conference room, huge conference room, big round table, 50 feet, maybe more in diameter, people all around it, and a little box in the middle. And if you think of the Capitol Rotunda here in Washington, it was a ceiling something like that above them, so it was high. And as he connected with this box, it is a display. And his thoughts are holographically projected out to fill the table, so everyone could see and feel what he experienced. And he didn't have to say, oh, well, I went there and I saw this and there was this planet and the other, because they all saw it and felt it. And the society has evolved to that point where that's the norm. So that's kind of a picture of the future that you can hang on to. And it's his little bouquet of hope. This is where we're going. Now, how do we get there? That's a whole different story. Because today we have all these terrible things going on with governments and hidden governments and control and all these things happening. And the first of these I'm going to speak of, and I'm going to make many people angry. And I'm going to say religion. Not anyone, but all. They have all been kidnapped, for lack of a better way to describe it. The avatars that came through with their messages, what happened behind them was not what they intended at all. And for the Christian religion, the first big chain was original sin. Adam and Eve committed this sin. You're all guilty. You're born with this. No, you're not. It has nothing to do with you. You are who you are. And you are what you are. And what that is a divine spark of God, source, any name you want to put on it. Each and every one of you has a piece of that in you. If you didn't, you wouldn't exist. Not just in this reality, but period. You would not exist. So, that is who you are. But that has been hidden from you. And that was part of the plan. Earth was the first planet of free choice. Could a people, without having things told to them or rules laid down for them, come into existence and find their way back to source? That was the experiment. And it almost failed. There was a point where the beings on the other side were ready to call it quits, wipe it out, and start over. But somebody stood up. And that someone is Sanat Kumara. And he is one of the co-beings of Venus. And he volunteered. He said, I will come to Earth. I will hold their flame, their beacon, until they can carry it on their own. And of course, he brought an army with him, and that's where your 144,000 come from. Those are the beings he brought with him to help hold that light. And many of you listening to this are part of that gathering. So he came, he held the light, and at the time this occurred, the threefold flame in the hearts of the masses was 1/16 of an inch. And that may not have relevance for many of you, but your sacred heart, the hidden chakra, the ones that all the mystics would not teach you about, is where you reside, and that's where your threefold flame lives. And if you look at the paintings and whatever of Yeshua and Mother Mary with their Sacred Heart, as it's called today, it has a flame coming out of the top of it. And your Sacred Heart has this flame. And it is a threefold flame. And like anything that's in the human body, it can get out of whack. They should all be in balance. Most of you, they're not. You can make a conscious effort to do this in your meditations. Balance. Go to your Sacred Heart. Balance your threefold flame. Feed it. Help it grow. In turn, it will help you. So, this is part of the beginning of unity awareness. And what is unity awareness? Nothing more than the simple recognition that all of you are God. Every single one of you, no matter how high, low, in between, wherever, whatever, have this God spark, if you will, that resides within you. And this has been hidden from you. Now you are starting to become aware of this. As this grows, everything will change. Governments will change. Some may fall, some may morph, whatever, but they will be based on the fact that all of you are one. And what hurts one hurts all. What helps all helps one. So this will change your laws, how government operates, how everything operates, businesses, everything will change. With this, the world will change. You will have a world government. Not this one world order that's bandied about today, because that's a crock. That's a power play. This will be a true coming together of everyone. And it will be necessary for you to merge into the Galactic Federation, which you will do. That will happen. And people say, oh, there's too much, there's so many things going wrong. Does not matter. The different predictions that have been made, some about 2000, some about beyond, they were aspects of what could happen at two different times. The first was 2000. That was the chance where you would have Armageddon and all the war and destroy the planet. Well, some years before that, you decided, nope, we are not going to do that. Gaia is ascending, we're going with her. We're not going to die off and come back. We are going to be right here, make that journey with her. Well, this caused other problems. All those things that had been put into place to make Armageddon possible now had to be mitigated. And over the years, you've seen that. We still have a bunch of that left, but it's slowly going away. Now we're at the point where we are making a choice. And that choice is two-pronged. Those who hunger for power and everything else will make the choice to go to an earth that destroys itself. Just that plain and simple. They're greedy, they're powerful, they won't give up their power, and it will cost them. The rest of us are going the other way. And you say, how can that be possible? There's so much. Well, if any of you out there are familiar with the 100th monkey syndrome, we have passed that point. And what that means is there are enough people on the planet who are awake that it cannot be derailed. We are going to ascend. It is going to happen. And you would be surprised at how few that really takes. And if you want an idea, look at history. Any tyranny, wherever, whenever, however, was only ruled by a few, a very small percentage of the population, but they had power, and they used it, and they made those under them bow down, scrape, see themselves as less than. And that's how they maintain control. Well, they can't do that anymore. Now it's time for truth. And everywhere you look, you are seeing scandals coming out. Things that were hidden are coming out. Shadow governments, they aren't quite, they're spoken of, but they're not out in the open yet. They will be. It will happen. And the question is, what are you going to do during all this? Are you going to fight? Are you going to rise up and riot in the streets? No, that's not the answer. That simply continues what's there and what's going on. You do have to fight, and you do have to stand up. But you have to stand up in love. Don't be angry with these power brokers and all this stuff that's going on. They've served a purpose. They were part of the plan. Give them love like you would anything else. Because they can't handle that. You can fight and do all kinds of things, and they're ready for that. But love them. Send them love. Send them forgiveness. That's not in their bailiwick. They don't understand that. They don't know how to compete with that. And that's your answer. Be who you are. Be the aspect of God that you are. Let your love glow. Turn this planet into millions and billions of candles glowing with love. That's your job. And if you do nothing more than that, you are contributing to the change that is coming. Do you help someone in need? Do you open a door for someone? Do you let that person in traffic who's being an ass, for lack of a better term, because there isn't any, do you let them in? And don't be angry with them. Just love them. Forgive them for being stupid. And move on. Because that's not who you are. You are not a judgmental being. That is not your purpose. Your purpose is to love, be helpful. And that is the thing that will bring about all these changes that we are waiting for. There is probably more, well, not probably, there is more I could say on this. But I think for the time being, this is enough. So with that, I thank you for listening, and farewell for now. Some of that I knew was coming, and some of it I did not. But yeah, I knew this was going to be a long channel, and this is the longest channel he has ever done. And some of it I didn't realize until this morning what he was going to say, particularly about me. But he felt it was necessary, and who am I to disagree with an archangel? And that's another aspect of dealing with these beings. They are trying to show us that they are no more nor less than we are. They operate from a different place. They're not higher, they're not better. They simply are in a different place. And Raphael has been trying to teach me that for quite some time. And it's amazing how our relationship has changed. And I have a feeling it's going to do so even more. But that's okay. My whole world has been rocked time and time again in the last 2 years. Why should it be any different? But as each of these changes comes, I look at it, okay, adapt to it, and move on. And just when I'm comfortable, here comes something else. And it all changes again. And this is going to continue to happen over and over and over. Now I could fight it. I could say, no, I'm not going to. It's not worth the bother. And by fighting it, all I do is make it stronger. So just accept things as they come to you. Realize who you are. Be that being, that wonderful beacon of light in every moment. And I know that's hard. It's one of the biggest battles I fight. I keep finding myself continually, I'm going along and, oh yeah, okay, and then monkey mind goes somewhere and have to pull it back. But being in the moment, being present, being who I am is the most important thing that I can do. And I leave you with that. Till the next time, let me reach over here and get the little button. Goodbye.